from my point of view, I was saying that I believe the advertising agency business is not necessarily nurturing talent or nurturing innovation sufficiently, based on quite a conservative industry that's missing out on perhaps the difference between the creative science and the and stats science. So mixing and merging graduates that have a maths background and a creative background is really important. I believe that we're seeing major changes in the digital universe. Digital is going to explode over the next 5-10 years, and data and real-time bidding and knowledge of how to trade that is going to be crucial for agencies to succeed. Agencies that don't employ people that understand data, I think, will be marginalised and will lose clients. Agencies that do not build talent that is able to understand the whole gamut of marketing will lose out. And I think we need to keep a mobility going. I don't believe there's enough mobility. We hire into distinct roles and we leave them there to fester for 2 years. What we need to do is keep them mobile, keep them motivated, and give them the opportunity to shine beyond their day jobs. To do that, agents have to change their business models. They've got to change their business models to afford their staff to have time to innovate and behave differently.
The concerns we had are in both in universities and in schools. In universities, so many courses that purport to be computer science courses are teaching nothing other than generalist ideas around computer science, around games. What we need is graduates with hard skills like computer science, art and animation. In the schools, ICT is taught is, whilst useful, it's never going to give any child a career in our industry or any of the creative digital industries. ICT is learning how to use Microsoft applications like Word, PowerPoint and Excel. Secretarial skills, useful, but not what we need. We need computer scientists. It's a difference between reading and writing. ICT is using an application. We need people to be able to make applications. So that basis is the fundamental part of our report, Next Gen.
Well, I think one of the things that's really apparent is that Ian and I look particularly at the video games and visual effects industries as two sort of flagship high-tech creative industries. And I think what this conference has sort of reminded me and has brought out in very stark light is how these needs, the computer science needs that these industries, video games and visual effects industries have, are very much felt across the wider sort of sector, including advertising. So I think there are some these are even bigger issues than the needs of two sectors.
Advertising, like many of the other creative digital industries in the UK, is a combination of art and technology. It's combining maths and art to create digital content which inspires, motivates and embraces a whole world community and audience. And therefore you have to have a deep understanding, I think, of art and science at the same time. So I think it's clearly the advertising is the same as all the other industries in my sphere of being able to get onto this idea.
I think one of the most profound changes that we've seen in the last 10 years or so is the speed at which innovation has sort of it's become much more rapid. A statistic that came from the Ofcom recently was that it took 14 years for 50% of the UK population to have access to multi-channel TV. It's taken just 4 years, as opposed to 14 years, for 50% of the population to have access to internet TV and to actually view things like iPlayer. And that's just an illustration. If we think 4 or 5 years ahead, the population will be, the majority of the population will be doing things that we can't even anticipate now. So advertising, I think, as with all the other sectors, the creative content sectors, faces the challenge of how to actually adapt their business models to this environment. So I think the issue about what the education system can do to provide the right talent is critical to that.
Well, we have what we call the 70-20-10 and now 1% rule, where 70% of people's time is on their core job, especially engineers. 20% is on related work, and 10% is very random. Out of that spawns many new products and services. Also, we have 1% time, which is the staff able to use 1% of their time across a year for philanthropic good. going to schools, going to communities, doing charity work, and that fosters a sense of real community and senses that they support a Google mission of making the world's information universally accessible and useful, so they can put back to the environment and put back into the economy.
The world is a very quickly changing place, and technology is at the heart of innovation, creating opportunities and challenges at the same time. To realise our ambition, we have to have skills, and those skills are rooted in maths and rooted in science and rooted in art. And to be able for content creators to reach global audiences through high-speed broadband, we have to have a digital economy that is driven by people with digital literacy. So unless we give the kids of today the skills that will enable that, we're going to have some severe challenges going forward.
My job is to look at how you can play with the various levers inside the business to make it more effective, more differentiated, make more money, innovate. Talent is fundamentally at the heart of all of that. We are only as good as our people and the way we organise them. And it's taken me 9 years to really come to that very firm conclusion. But I'm kind of in that. It's almost like being an alcoholic. I'm absolutely committed to the thought now that talent, a very, very radical reappraisal of the way we use talent inside the organisation, could make a massive impact on our future.
It's really understood that we, one, need to foster better talent management within our organisations, but two, and I think crucially for technical companies, that we have to encourage schools and colleges to understand the digital environment better, to encourage more computer science, to encourage more maths learning. And it's not just how to use a PowerPoint or an Excel spreadsheet. It's about coding, and it's about understanding data and data analysis. I think those people will be in rich demand over the course of the next 10 years.
Today I've talked about digital and creative apprenticeships, and I've gone into detail on how those apprenticeships work, specifically how we work with employers to develop training programs for 16 to 24-year-olds who are coming from a non-graduate background and who want to access the digital and creative industries. We help recruit those employees for those companies. We place them into those companies as apprentices, and we help train them across the year.
The areas I focused on were the areas that I think we've identified with the IPA in consultation with members are the two that probably are the most of interest for us to practically start to get to grips with. One is the relationship with higher education and how that helps to support the talent pipeline into the advertising sector. I shared information about our TIC campaign, where we've worked with other subsectors in the creative industries to recognise courses and centres of excellence that work well in partnership with the industry. We need to explore how that campaign and how that approach can perhaps be best made to work in advertising. And the second was around apprenticeships, our work in terms of helping to develop apprenticeship frameworks and support sectors to start looking at them as routes into the industry. And again, we've been working with the IPA to look at bidding to a particular fund to develop a particular pathway and framework that works for advertising.
I think what's most important about the digital apprenticeships, and I say digital apprenticeships in particular because I think this is where they're different to other apprenticeships, is about discovering a new generation of raw talent that understands the digital world because they've grown up with the digital world. And I think that's the key thing here, and you can see that in a kind of generational change in terms of how kids are using technology and how they're creating new relationships with that technology. And I think in terms of how we move forward as a competitive country, in particular advertising, we need to put those kind of kids at the heart of our business planning and strategy.
Well, I am very, very interested in the apprenticeship scheme, and I think it's a fine scheme and one we should embrace in our operating companies. I had a couple of watch-outs, which is that I still think it's important that when we take on apprentices, we apply the same criteria to them as we would do to anybody coming into our business. They've got to have a genuine passion about the business, a genuine curiosity to be part of that business, and a genuine sense of creativity. Now, I know that's very high expectations for an 18-year-old, but I think we've got to sense that within them so that we can see that they will have a future in the industry.
I think we're certainly interested in looking at the apprentice scheme. I think we've struggled sometimes to work out how to recruit graduates. I think also we need to think about training and development within our organisation, because at the moment it's very much on the desk kind of coaching, and if we're going to retain people and make them better, I think we need to work more about a formal training programme.
Today I talked about the potential for partnership with the IPA to improve the diversity of the graduate pool entering the industry, specifically looking to develop the relationship around the type of candidates that we're able to reach out to on campus that are from the ethnic minority backgrounds that partner agencies have struggled to attract in previous years, and provide them with education, awareness and insight into the fantastic range of roles that IPA members can provide to hopefully see the bums on seat improve in the following year in the graduate roles that IPA member agencies can provide.
There's a lot of diversity in the industry, and the industry does need to change. But what was there was the willingness to do that, and that's the first of any move that you want to make.
We also discussed today diversity within our businesses and how we can bring in minority talent into the businesses, and that's something that's a very, very big hot potato for us going forward. And what I'd also like to do, we're already involved in a number of diversity programs, and what I'd like to do is embrace some of the work that's been done here today, and again make sure that our agencies are aware of what's going and what is possible and how we can progress that here, because the whole area of diversity is going to become increasingly important to us. It already is in the US, and it's increasingly important in Europe.
The diverse teams bring something different to the table. So if you're pitching for clients, someone with extra talent, someone who is Chinese or Arab or Asian, will have the best of both worlds, will bring two cultures instead of one. It'll bring more learning, more insight, whether you're targeting local clients or international pitch. So I think diverse people as well, when it comes to brainstorming, they bring that little bit of extra buzz into the presentation and bring more ideas and more flavor.
Key piece of information I took away from today's conference, I would say, is probably, I feel there's a willingness in the room from the delegates who've been here today that they want to embrace some of that change and get behind recruiting new young talent, and I think they've just been waiting for the information as to how to go about that, so that's been really good to hear.
I think the key piece I took away was just the excitement within the room about, and the commitment in the room to addressing the areas of diversity that the industry has perhaps struggled with in the last few years. Looking at attracting students from younger age groups, working out how you can best provide them with support and coaching through apprenticeships, also through other mechanisms in addition to the work that obviously we're doing at university level. So I think the key thing for me was just the absolute commitment driven from the business case of embracing this idea of trying to have a wider approach to recruiting and attracting talent into the industry.
The companies, the agencies, the academic institutions that are flourishing are the ones that are putting the people at the heart of what they do, that are encouraging openness, that are embracing change and sort of constant change.
At the moment, my company is trying to do quite a lot of graduate recruitment and finding it quite difficult. I think there's lots of ideas and people that we can get in touch with that can help us with that. I think also I think it kind of helps us think about the talent challenges that the industry faces, which, although we do more senior level recruitment, actually is quite a big problem at all levels.
It's been a really exciting morning. It's an amazing set of speakers. They've challenged me to think very differently. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to challenge my team to write a radical talent strategy by January the 1st. That's kind of my first challenge. Challenge 2 is going to be just to lay down some principles inside the agency. 2 principles that we're going to look at are 50% of all of our talent inside the business, is going to have some sort of science or maths qualification, significant qualification. That's going to be a significant change to the balance of talents in the business. I'm giving myself 12 months to achieve that. And I think the third thing is we're going to put in place a program where every single employee of the business will be able to write code within arriving at Albion in 12 months. It's going to just challenge the way everyone thinks in the process.
A key piece of information that I took away was just how important the value of collaboration and networking is, and how important aggregating all the many talents and abilities and opportunities that the creative industries can offer, but then communicating that in a way that excites and ignites basically the best and brightest of talent to come and join us in our exciting creative and technological endeavours. I think there's an issue that because we're made up as a set of industries of largely very small companies, that we're not making the most of the joint and collective voice, and I just felt very much that's something that we do as an organisation, but I felt very affirmed today that again was a message that was coming through from the discussions and the contributions.
I think the idea of working with other parties and other agencies and kind of looking at kind of cross-industry solutions is really valuable. I'm an account manager for WPP, which is a client of PwC, and one of the reasons that I came was to understand that this is obviously a very important industry issue, but clearly it's very important for our client. So it was important to come here and gain this perspective so that this can influence our future behaviour and liaisons with our client.
There are two things that were very apparent. The first one was much more long-term views on what other people are doing to foster talent that is going to be absolutely critical in our industry, which will really be relevant maybe even after people like me retire, 15 or 20 years later. But it's very interesting to see what they think are important and what skills are being incorporated. And the other thing is to really look at a diverse point of view of what people not necessarily strictly in our function of the creative industry are doing, but people outside of that creative function are doing. So from both perspectives, which is very interesting.
It kind of reaffirms my belief that we've got more to learn about how to organise ourselves, how to approach this whole subject from the outside world than by looking inside our industry. And whilst there's lots of good best practice inside the ad village, I actually think there's better practice outside.